NFL Week 8 is here, so I got score predictions and picks against the spread for every single game this week. We do this video every single Wednesday. Let's jump into it. Thursday night football, the Vikings at the Chargers. I have the Chargers pulling this one off 23-19. Could be a good game. There's been a lot of upsets on Thursday night football. We called the Bengals last week. I'm not going to predict the upset this week, even though I could see it. I just like the Chargers at home on a short week. Joe Alt likely coming back. That's absolutely huge. The Vikings seem to start games a little sloppy, even though Wentz is making big-time throws throughout the game. Chargers defense is very solid. Not last week against the Colts, but they're typically solid. The key is to run the ball on them. Mason's very capable of running on them. Kevin O'Connell is a little hesitant to call enough running plays. He's very pass-happy, and they are pretty explosive at times through the air. I just don't think that'll be enough. Short week. Wentz, playing maybe a little banged up, traveling to LA, playing against a good defense. Joe Alt probably coming back. Yeah, Flores' defense probably can find ways to get pressure on Herbert still. He could still make throws under pressure. Collection of weapons. I mean, another one apparently added to the mix with rookie Gadsden, their tight end. He's making big-time plays last couple weeks. So it's just so many guys you have to account for. So I'll take the Chargers. If the Vikings win this game, I'd say it's because they decided to, surprisingly, O'Connell decided to just pound the football, and they started without those mistakes, unlike the past few weeks. So if those things happen, the Vikings very well could win this game. But with Joe Alt likely coming back, I do like the Chargers at home, 23-19. The Sunday slate, Dolphins and Falcons. This week's interesting because there's a lot of picks that seem easy, straight up. You never know, especially this year. But against the spread, very challenging because we have some big lines here. The Falcons favored by 7.5. And there is a scenario where the Falcons just destroy the Dolphins, right? Because the Dolphins vibes are down. They're struggling right now. They're obviously missing Tyreek Hill. Now they're going to be missing Darren Waller. Really, their only go-to is Devon Achane, which he's very good, obviously. They're really struggling to stop the run, and that's a problem. That's a problem going against the Falcons and Bijan Robinson. So Bijan very well could run all over them, get a big lead, and just make things difficult for Miami. I could see that scenario. Again, the key for the Dolphins is Achane, not just because he's their best player, but the Niners put some things on tape last week. Running the football feels like against a good defense, Falcons defense, you might be able to run the ball a little bit. So Mike McDaniel may stick to the ground game here. So both teams sticking to the ground. I think a lot of running clock. So 7.5 might be too big of a line for that type of game. But Bijan is the ultimate player to bet on this week. He's going to go off. Right now, his rushing total is 90.5. I think, you bet that 100 plus, you get positive odds. It looks pretty good, and I like an anytime touchdown. He's going to break one off. But Penix a little banged up, bone bruised, definitely could play. I don't know if it really changes much for them with Kirk Cousins or Penix. Could they actually do better with Kirk Cousins? Not necessarily me saying he's better, but just there's really not much of a game plan for a Kirk Cousins-led Falcons team, from last week not having him starting to this week, if that's the case. I'd imagine Penix could play here, but I'll go Falcons. Kirk Cousins teams, just mixed them together. 26-20, a lot of running clock. Bijan goes off. It's all about Achane for the Dolphins, and at some point the run defense is going to have to step up, but I don't really trust it here. Jets and Bengals. The Jets look like the worst team in football because they still do not have a win. Hard to trust them. Bengals, people starting to get hyped on them. They looked really good on Thursday, at least on offense with Joe Flacco. He has the weapons to be explosive. There's a scenario where they score all kinds of points against the worst team in football in Cincinnati and win big. But this is another one of those big line games. I'm just not going to trust the Bengals defense enough in this game. I know it's the Jets, the worst offense in football. We don't know who's playing quarterback. Is it Fields? It sounded like it was going to be Tyrod Taylor, but now all of a sudden he's day-to-day banged up. I don't know if it really matters. It actually could be better with Fields in this game because you can run all over the Bengals. And the Jets actually are a pretty decent team running the football. Breece Hall is a stud. That offensive line is pretty good at run blocking. If Fields or Taylor plays, they can run. So I think the Jets get a little more offense going than they normally do, because do not forget the Bengals defense is really bad. And I trust the Bengals offense. They're going to do enough in this game to win it. I have them winning 24-20, but the Jets defense has been playing a little bit better recently. Obviously, they've been obviously they have the talent to be better than they were earlier in the year. So maybe they're starting to figure something out here. But I'll take the Bengals winning. That 7 spread could be a little bit high. Could you use the Jets as a parlay option and bump them up to plus 12.5, 13.5 to be safe around there? I feel comfortable with that. But I'm going to trust Cincy. trust the Jets. I like the Bengals offense with Joe Flacco. It seems to be night and day different compared to Jake Browning. But this is only the third game. Maybe teams are going to have a little bit more of a game plan now. We'll see. I'll trust Cincinnati in this one. Browns at Patriots. I have New England winning at home 23-13. We talked about the Browns last week. It was a good matchup for them. This one, not so much because they're not going to be able to run the ball as effectively. The Dolphins are the worst rush defense in football. The Patriots, one of the very best. They're so good stopping the run. It's not me saying they're going to completely shut down Judkins and the Browns, but they're going to limit what they do best, and they're not the best passing team right now. So I think they'll really struggle against this New England defense. Now, the Browns defense is really solid. Drake May's really solid. He's been balling out. This is a team that's limited to the passing game because the run game's not that solid. The Browns also take away the run. So, maybe the Browns could give the Patriots and Drake May their biggest test in recent weeks here. So I don't know if the Patriots will score off the charts, but more of a defensive game. I like the Patriots. I have them winning by 10, 23-13. I just don't trust the Browns to do much offensively because what they do best will be limited much more than what they're used to here, and it puts Gabriel, a rookie quarterback that's not the greatest in the world, in a tough situation. So a couple things I would consider here. The under of 40.5. I don't think the Browns contribute enough. I don't know if either team does, but the Browns under 16.5. Yeah, it's under 17, but I'm thinking they score 10 to 13 points here, Cleveland, just because, again, they won't be able to do what they do best. And their best bet of hitting that over is if they score on defense, which is certainly possible. Patriots been so solid, though. And then you could use the Patriots money line as a parlay pick. Wouldn't say throw money on 6.5. It's a pretty large line for what could be a defensive game as the weather starts to be a factor as well this time of the year, for the first time. So, but I would include the Patriots in a parlay money line. We used them last week as well. So take New England 23-13 in this one. Giants, Eagles, round 2. They played 2 weeks ago, and that's what makes this tough because they played 2 weeks ago, and the Giants dominated Philadelphia. I mean, they look like the far better team on both sides of the ball in that game, so that's fresh in our minds. Eagles still got to prove us something, so it is kind of tough to pick the Eagles in this game, but they're at home. They're a little hyped to get revenge. They're off a win. They're wearing the throwback Kelly Greens in this game. The Giants will probably keep things the same because it worked for them last time. The Eagles could adjust. They'll probably, they'll obviously have Jalen Carter and Quinyon Mitchell, unlike last time. Well, Mitchell started the game. He got injured within it. And it was a disaster last time for the Eagles in that game. And there was a part where they were still in it. So I just don't think it'll be that much of a mess. I'm just not going to predict them to, I could see it just because, again, the Giants probably keep things the same. The Eagles probably adjust. That's why the second time around, that's why it's tough to beat a team twice, right? So 7.5 does seem pretty big, though. I do think there'll be a lot of running clock because Scadaboo seemed to play very well against the Eagles last time. I think that'd be their key. And then for the Eagles, getting Saquon Barkley going in this one could be the key. Not putting it in Hurts' hands, too much. Remember, he didn't play the best game last time around. So maybe a little less scoring than expected because the running clock, because running the football, a lot of running the football here. So I'll go 23-20. 7.5 line looks pretty big, but it'd be something that would happen with the Eagles. Just the opposite happens this time. I could see it, but we'll keep it a close game with a lot of running clock here. Bills, Panthers. The Bills are cold and coming off a bye. This is exactly where I like Buffalo. This is where they turn it around. I think they win big in this one. They can win even bigger than this. And I've been all over the Panthers during their win streak, picking them. I'm not doing it this week. Their defense, night and day improved compared to last year, especially the run defense. I think for a week here, it's not going to look as improved. I do think it is improved, but I think the Bills exposed them a little bit in this game. Could be wrong, but I think they exposed them on the ground and through the air. James Cook, Josh Allen, these guys have a big day, and their defense does just enough. Again, Bryce Young could be out. Obviously, they'd rather have him. He's playing pretty well as their starting quarterback. It's not really going to make much of a difference for me in this one. So, and the key for the Panthers here is continue to play very well, stopping the run, and continue to run the ball very well because you can run on the Bills. You sure can run the ball on the Bills. And Rico Dowdle is running wild right now, and Hubbard has the potential to do that as well. So if the Panthers just come out and pound the football and stop the run, they might win this game. I just see them being down where the run game could kind of get taken away. And then trying to play keep up. I just like the Bills offense off the bye and snapping out of it and getting right in this one. So it's a big line, but I would take the Bills -7 in this one. I got them winning 31-16. Bears, Ravens. This is a tricky one to predict, especially the score and against the spread. And it's not because of Lamar. Lamar is actually out there at practice right now. So I would imagine, especially off the bye, he will play. But things change here for me with the bets and the pick, the score, if Lamar does not play. But I'm thinking he plays. Why this is tricky to predict the score and the pick against the spread is the Ravens defense. We do not know what this Ravens defense is yet. For most this year, it's been one of the worst defenses in football. And there was a week in there against the Texans where most of the defense, especially the best players, were out, so we can't judge off that. But the most recent game we've seen them play, they got a little healthier on defense, and they played very well on defense across the board. And that was against, of all teams, the LA Rams. So what Ravens defense are we going to get here? The Bears have potential to be explosive on offense. They've been killing it on the ground recently, and they could do that against the Ravens. But the Ravens, I feel like, always start a little slow on defense, and they kind of figure it out. Could that Rams game be a turning point? Them rounding that curve and figuring out. I guess we'll learn in this game. This is a bad draw for Chicago, in my opinion, because they're playing the Ravens while everyone's doubting them off the bye in Baltimore. To me, it's tough. The Bears, interesting, before the last 2 weeks, they were maybe the worst run defense in football. The last 2 weeks, they were excellent. So which Bears run defense are we going to get going against Derrick Henry and probably Lamar Jackson? I'm gonna trust the Ravens run game to really get it going in this one. Again, the Bears run defense has looked a lot better. The Commanders game, they don't run pro-style offense. It's a very delayed running plays. I think I'll just kind of chalk it up to that for the Commanders. And then last week, the Saints were down by so much playing keep up, so that was kind of a reason they struggled to get the run game going. So I think the Bears run defense will have their hands full with this one. Again, there's a scenario where the Bears score 30 points, right? Because their offense has been pretty solid under Ben Johnson with their young playmakers they have. An unlimited amount of playmakers, it feels like right now. But again, the Ravens at home off the bye, and they mainly win this one with offense. So I do like if you want to build a parlay, Ravens money line 6 is a little tricky because again, there's a scenario the Bears score much more points here, and I like Derrick Henry to have a big time game so he could score. It's just going to come down to the Bears. The Bears, the main reason they've been winning football games, they've been creating all kinds of takeaways, and they look damn good doing it, right? And they can continue doing that. The Ravens have been a little sloppier than normal this year turning it over, but this is typically not a team that really turns it over, right? And mainly they've been losing because of defense, and that was going against the Bills, the Lions, the Chiefs. The Bears are very solid, much improved. This is a different matchup. This is the time where the Ravens turn it around here. So I got them winning 30-20. But again, what Ravens defense going to show up? What Bears run defense going to show up? Which Caleb Williams going to show up? So this is a little tricky to predict the score. It just feels like, I think a lot of people got to agree, it feels like that bounce back spot for Baltimore here this week, as long as Lamar plays, of course. 49ers and Texans, one of the tougher ones to pick. You'd say you could feel that this could be the get-right spot for Houston at home in a defensive game. Maybe create some turnovers off Mac Jones. I mean, realistically, this is one of the better defenses in football, but the 49ers defense is also playing very well. The Texans are favored. It's just one of those situations where it's so hard for me to pick the Texans because the Niners are well coached and they're playing very well in general, for the most part, on both sides of the ball. And mainly the Texans offense, the play calling, I'd give the play calling an F-, how it's been this year. C.J. Stroud, I'd give especially because I have expectations on him, I'd give him a very bad grade as well, not as bad as the play calling. And the offensive line is down there as well. So it's just tough the run game can't get going. Even Nico Collins dropping the ball, and he and Christian Kirk are out of practice. It is only Wednesday, but I saw they are out of practice today. That could change. All that combined, it's very tough for me to pick the Texans because their defense single-handedly could win this game. It put them in the Seahawks game, even though they had no business being in that game. But I think San Francisco does just enough. Their defense is playing very well coached by Robert Saleh, and they're going against a struggling. It's really struggling right now. And I think mainly McCaffrey, but Mac Jones linking up with Kittle, getting him going, can make enough plays here. So I do like the Niners. I'm talking, maybe they win by a little more than one. I could see the Texans as being just a get-right spot, but 17-16, 19-16. The Texans over-under right now is 20.5. I'd take that under all day. I think the reason they can go over is scoring on defense. Do they score on defense? The Niners will probably keep it on the ground for the most part. And I'd go, if you're building a parlay, 49ers plus 3.5 looks pretty good. I'm tempted to, you get them positive odds at get them plus odds at the money line pick, that might be worth a go. But it does feel like, again, potentially a get-right spot for Houston here. I just don't trust their offense at all. So I do like the Niners in this one. But you know it's going to be close because these two defenses, and it'll be low scoring because of the two defenses. Bucks at Saints. So both teams got some injuries. The Bucks got a long list of notable injuries here. The Bucks coming off their worst outing of the season. Baker's worst outing. He was off. And again, the injuries continue to pile up. The Saints seem to get one on the Bucks pretty often when you least expect it. It seems to happen. It's a different Saints team, though. There was some damn good ones in the past, different coaching staff. It's one of those sneaky ones, but I like Tampa here, 27-20. I'm considering the 3.5. I wish it was at 2.5. If you're building a parlay, take the Bucks money line, include that. Again, it could be a little sneaky, but I just don't trust the Saints enough. I mean, they'll score some points. They're not too good in the red zone. Rattler turned the ball over a little bit. The Bucks defense, they'll give up some yards through the air, but they also create turnovers. They also stop the run at a very high level, I guess, unless it's Jahmyr Gibbs. So I'm going to trust the Bucks. And offensively, they'll do enough damage here. Egbuka's fine. Baker will get back on track in this game. So I like them winning 27-20, a better matchup for them. Yeah, and I think a big issue, Baker was a little off last week. Well, everyone kind of has those games, but the Lions are typically an all-man coverage defense, and they threw in a ton of zones. So that really wasn't on film or the game plan. So I think it really confused Baker and the Bucks. I don't know if the Saints mix things up there. I don't know. Are they capable of mixing things up here in this one? I suppose it's possible, but I'll take Tampa 27-20. I'm considering that 3.5. If it bumps down to 2.5, yeah, go for it there. One of the best games of the week, Cowboys at Broncos. Also one of the toughest games to pick. I'll tell you what, the Broncos, everyone knows they continue to not show up for 3 quarters. They only show up for the 4th quarter. If they do that, they will get their ass kicked in this game, and they will not come back and win. They will get their ass kicked. But my gut is telling me Broncos in this one. At home, in the altitude, for whatever reason, the Cowboys play much better on turf than grass. They got to travel in this one. Again, on grass, in the altitude. It's not a huge factor. It's a small factor. This is a tough matchup, it feels like, for Dallas, and it feels like a great matchup for the Broncos. This is going to be the toughest defense Dallas has faced. The offense is elite. It's ridiculous. Second game back with Lamb. Javonte Williams, revenge game. I'm all the way on Javonte Williams' side. The Broncos were just not giving enough carries. He was always very talented. So love what he's doing. It'd be awesome if he got a revenge game going here. It's definitely possible. But this is the toughest defense that they have seen. Maybe the Broncos defense is not as good as we're all talking, because again, they didn't look that great. It was mainly the offense's fault, but they didn't look that great just against the Giants too. But again, the Cowboys defense stepped it up last week, but this is a very bad defense that I feel like anybody could move the ball. I mean, the Panthers look like an elite offense, and they're playing right now, right? They look like an elite offense at home against Dallas. The Broncos can continue with their bland play calling underneath whatever and throw some sneaky downfield plays, and I think they'll be fine here against this defense. So they have an offense that could score, is capable of scoring on the Cowboys defense, and they have a defense that's not going to stop Dallas, but they can slow it down. They're at home on grass with the altitude. I think a lot of things are pointing me towards Denver here to kind of get right, maybe building some momentum off that last game, or maybe that was just one of those emotional wins that's tough to bounce back off of even though you won it. Maybe the Cowboys just score too many points early and the Broncos just can't come back. It's definitely possible. My gut's saying Denver here for the reasons I explained. 27-23. Really excited about this one though. Pretty decent odds to take the Broncos money line. You could pair that with just one other thing, like a 2-pick parlay there. It's definitely a possibility. If you think the Cowboys are going to win, then just don't do it, right? So only do it if you agree. Titans at Colts, another great opportunity to add another win to the collection for Indianapolis. Sure feels like that. I mean, this would be a crazy upset. Sometimes with these division games, you get one of these teams split a lot. It would be wild, though. The way the Titans are playing right now and the way the Colts are playing, completely opposites. Titans are really struggling to stop the run, and Jonathan Taylor is the best in football right now, possibly making the case as an MVP, and he can stack that production in this game. So I think he'll go off. If they have to throw, they'll go off there. The defense is playing fairly well, especially being banged up at corner. I can see the Titans starting well, similar to last week, being in the game and having a lead. I also could see them just getting their ass kicked right off the bat. They'll eventually get their ass kicked. 13.5 is a pretty big line. I've seen some even up to 14.5, so that's a little tricky, but you could bump that down to 9.5 parlay with Jonathan Taylor touchdown. It's definitely something to think about, or pair it with some other things you like, some things we talked about throughout this video as well. But this should be one of the You would think one of the more clear-cut games in terms of who's going to win, and by a decent amount, Colts should have it. Sunday Night Football, the Aaron Rodgers revenge game, Packers and Steelers. I'm going to feel a little more comfortable with the Packers, but this is a game I could see getting weird because, Aaron Rodgers revenge game, just because he needs revenge, he might get it. I totally could see it just for that reason and that reason only. Packers also been a little underwhelming while still winning football games, being good. Recently it's in Pittsburgh. The primetime games get a little weird, so I'm a little cautious with this one. Of course, a guy like Josh Jacobs should score a touchdown. We'll talk about more touchdown scores, later in the week like we always do. We've been killing those. That's a guy that probably scores. I can see the Packers because the Steelers are towards the bottom of the league in pass defense. I can see them just airing it out in this game. I wouldn't recommend doing it too much. I think the Steelers might be just as bad at stopping the run here. And that's kind of why I'm on the Packers. I think they're the better team. While the better team doesn't always win in these games during the year. But while the Steelers defense, this is not even close to your typical great Steelers defense. So the Packers should have success on the ground, through the air. And the Steelers offense, surprisingly, looks really, really good this year. This is a better defense than they've seen, especially, really most of the year. This is a much better defense. Micah Parsons is really coming alive right now. He's going to get after Rodgers. It's not the best defense in the world right now, but it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. So I like the Packers better on both sides of the ball. I'll trust them. If they're able to use Jacobs a little more than they were able to use him last week, and they'll win this game. 24-20 is what I got, but things could get weird in this one. A big game for both teams. In Monday Night Football, Commanders at Chiefs. It's a big spread, 12.5. The Chiefs are favored by, but I actually have them covering. I wouldn't bet on it, though, because it's a big line. It was at 10, and it went up there to 12.5, and that's because Jaden Daniels is out and Mariota's starting. I don't know if that's enough to change that line. That's why I was a little hesitant having them cover the 12.5, because Mariota's not better than Jaden Daniels, but I think besides that one pick six, I think he's been more consistent than Jaden Daniels, actually. And maybe it's Daniels been a little hesitant to run, too, maybe because multiple injuries, doesn't want to get injured. Mariota has had past injuries. He's not afraid to run. So maybe Mariota's a little tougher of a game plan, too. So that actually could make this closer than it needs to be. But at the same time, Chiefs are rolling right now, especially even more so with Rashee Rice in there. Them being at home in prime time is you don't need to say anymore, too. But offense is rolling. The Commanders' defense stinks right now. It absolutely stinks. The Chiefs are going to be too much. They're going to score it up. They possibly could score more than 31 points in this game. In the offensive Commanders, again, Mariota might be a little tricky. He could do a little damage. I just don't see enough. Like, how are they going to be able to do enough? The run game is pretty bland right now. Chiefs typically stop the run fairly well. Is McLaurin or Debo going to play? I'd imagine Debo does. Maybe both are back. Isn't enough against the Chiefs team at home. They're playing better all around right now, so I don't think so. I have 31-17. I think feels like a good score there. So here's a recap. All the picks I picked against the spread. I'm not saying to bet on all of them. We kind of covered some of those throughout the video. I think tricky. Easy against straight up, I should say. Tricky against the spread because there's a lot of big lines, and some I'm going with the underdog. Some I'm going with the heavy favorite. So it's a little tricky. Should be a fun week. A lot of injuries to monitor. We'll have our locks video next. We have some shorts coming out. Trade deadline videos. Weekly pick show on the channel. This is the score predictions. Power rankings on the channel. So join us. Like, subscribe, to notifications on. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.